Yeah? Hello, everybody.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Hello, everybody. How are you? So thank you for coming. I hope that you enjoyed the day. And for our last session today, we have a very special guest, Chris Lukassen from CarePay. Will be giving us some great insights about product management. I'll leave you to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, this is working. Good. Let me see if I can grab this. Yeah. Hey, so welcome everybody. Join. No problem for any latecomers and stragglers. Just join the presentation. It's fun to have everybody here and to actually have real people. And it's like fun. We had this conference season where everybody was on Zoom and at work and everybody was on Teams or Zoom. And I actually met one of my colleagues in the flesh and she turned out to be pregnant. And I didn't know. So it's great to see real people. I almost want to touch you to see if you're real. Yeah, so black belt in product management. So what is the tale all about? Well, basically, it works. They were so fed up with me. I kept setting in new versions of the slides. I found this picture online. I thought maybe this is interesting. Rather than giving you a tale of what I think is important or what I've learned or things, why not share more stories? Right, find stories to share to people. And then maybe people can draw inspiration from it and think, hey, this was an interesting story. Maybe it was a fairy tale. But so why not share real life stories and then draw insights from that? And it's really great to be back in Lisbon. I was here in 2018 at a Productize conference. Was anybody at Productize back then? No? Oh, cool. Well, anyway, I did a presentation back then on what you could learn from judo and how you could become a better leader. And ever since then, there was something interesting happened in my life because I became a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu, not everybody knows this. It consists of two words. It's the path of gentleness or the art of gentleness. Or, yeah, that's sort of the best translation I can give. And that's something that happened in my life. And on this journey towards the black belt, I discovered some things. So I discovered some things about my environment, something about me, something that made me go all that way and endure all those lessons and those painful moments to become, well, essentially a black belt. Still student, eternal student, but, well, something that I've achieved. And I noticed that a lot of the things that I actually discovered were pretty much the same as things that happened for me throughout my career and experiences I had with different companies. And there were 6 distinct levers that I discovered that I wanted to share with you. So, it's about stories, discoveries, and levers. Oh, there's actually something I skipped. Stories. So there's this story of these 3 people that are on lunch break, like the CEO of the company, the chief product officer, and the chief IT officer. They're on a lunch break. And as they go about their ways, they have this lamp that they discover. Right? Have you heard of this story before? No? Nobody has. Well, they find this magical lamp, or at least it turns out to be a magical lamp, and they rub the lamp, and out comes a genie, and the genie says, well, thank you, I've been stuck in this lamp for forever, so you're all granted a wish. Oh, says the IT director, I have a wish. I want to be on a beautiful island with beautiful people and have drinks and stuff, and he's off to this island, presumably off to this island at least. And the head of product management goes like, oh yeah, so I also have a wish. I want to be really wealthy and famous and like a movie star. And he's off. And the genie looks at the CEO and says, look, is there anything that I can do for you? Well, says the CEO, it's almost 2 o'clock. I don't care where these 2 are off to, but by 2 they're back in the office. I had hoped at a little bit more interaction. This is better. Good. So what is the moral of the story? Right, so the moral of the story is you should always let your boss make the first decision. Or first get the buy-in from the boss. And I felt that I spent almost 2 decades of my life helping IT managers, helping product managers to build successful stuff. And sometimes I feel I've been selling it to the wrong persons. Maybe I should have sold it on a different level. And part of this black belt of becoming perhaps more successful in product management is getting closer to the CEO and making sure we build things that they actually want, and not the things that we want. Or at least hope that they aim for the same thing. All right, so Act 1, case studies. So I want to talk to you about 3 actual case studies that happened to me with actual companies building great products. The first story is about from 1 to 100 in 4 years. If we're talking about cars, this is really bad performance. But this is from 0 to 100 million in 4 years. Now, there's companies who make less money. Then the second story is about the discovery of the female body. Don't worry, it's not that kind of talk. But it was an insightful story. Number 3, growing faster than a unicorn. How can you grow faster than a unicorn and what happens? Does this sound exciting? Are we excited? Yeah, I realize I'm between beer and dinner. So this is a terrible place to be. All right. So 3 stories. Oh yeah, and second part, the actual, the conclusion of stuff, the path to the black belt. And as I was doing this course on how to become better in PowerPoint, I'm not sure why anybody would follow that course, but better in presentations. I studied this with a Swedish guy, and he told me, Chris, whenever you do a presentation, there's one word that you have to remember, and that word is sex. And that's, of course, the Swedish word for six. Huh? What are you thinking? All right, let's get started. Case study 1. 0 to 100 million in 4 years. I'm clicking. Something's happening. All right, I was working with a company that is in home improvement. And it's not exactly the most sexiest of companies, but it is an interesting company. And basically, this is one of the things that we looked at. This is a very nice graph. It's a little bit outdated. But you can see that when you look at growth, there's a lot of growth in telecom. There's growth in all kinds of things. But when you look at home and garden, there is growth. And about half of it comes from online services. So if you compare this to, for example, shoes, most of the shoes are being bought, or clothing, in particular shoes lifestyle. All of the growth sits in online services. So if you're a shoe store and you're not online, forget it, it's over. But if you're in home improvement, like we were, there's still opportunity. Right? So we needed to figure out how to build an online business. And mind you, we did over €1 billion in the offline building. So there was there was opportunity, there was money, but there was also a lot of internal struggle. Should we really do this? We've been doing shops and retail like hundreds of years. No, not hundreds, but a long time. And but we try to make that into a success. And actually, when you look at this, you presume that like half of the growth is in online, but that's not true. So what you need to do, and this is also something you should do with your own business, is zoom in a little bit deeper and look at the different categories. And when you look at the different categories, we actually saw that disruption was already happening. Like stuff in window decorations, like curtains, that's all being sold online already. And you could actually see it in our data. We were already losing sales in that area. But it sort of got lost in the big mix of all kind of products. And for example, nobody bought paint online. And so depending on how much categories you have shifts in your volume. And maybe the disruption is yet to happen. But as we realized this, we decided we need to move to more online. And then it became really difficult. And why did it become so difficult? It had everything to do with the nature of these kind of businesses. So these are franchise businesses. Do you have the same concept in Portugal, franchise businesses? Yeah, I think we have it everywhere. So what is a franchise business? Yeah? Yeah. Exactly. So you take the model and then you copy-paste it, basically. So I always say, and I hope there are no franchise people in the rooms, I always say that they're not real entrepreneurs, like pseudo-entrepreneurs, because they take something that works and then they copy-paste it. I'm exaggerating a bit, huh? These people work very hard. But you can imagine that if you're in this construct, that you don't want to change, because you just paid a lot of money to be able to take the label, to take the concept, to take the brand, and then copy paste it. And now they're going to change the formula. So they were really, really fighting us. And one of the things we did as product managers is trying to find ways to get around that resistance. And one of the things we actually came up with is a kind of a kickback fee. So we organized the whole country in postal code areas, and whenever we make a sale and we sell it to somebody in your postal code area, and there's actually a franchise shop in that area, we give them a kickback fee. So they're basically getting money for nothing. That sounds a little bit stupid, but it actually works. So that was one of the things we had to come up with to reduce the resistance in such an organization. All right, so that's problem number one. Problem number two is, how do we convert an experience like this to an online shop, basically? Some people know I'm also steward at Scrum.org, so let's do a small Scrum question. I have one product. I have one product backlog. How many product owners do we have? One. Oh, no, that's not what we did. So we struggled to get this all under one product owner. It's a complicated thing, and I love Scrum, but sometimes it's also really difficult to get there, and that's okay. It's a journey, and sometimes you need to get there in steps. So what we did is basically look at the customer journey, and we tried to get into the mindset of our customers, and then think about, okay, what is the mind of the customer when he goes through their retail journey, basically. Now, the first part is actually getting people inside the door, so inspire and attract people, right? Getting them in, oh, this is awesome, I can do this with my house. So for most of the women, we had more about, oh, I can make my house really beautiful and a cozy place. And for the men, we try to convince them that they don't have to, they're not two left-handed. We have such an expression, like you have two left hands. You have the same? Yeah. So everybody comes into the store and pretends that they know what they're doing, and then they seek out this one person that actually knows what to do, and I pulled this from my refrigerator. Do you know how to fix this? And that's how it actually works. So inspire, instruct. Part of the journey, then you switch to a different mindset. You can actually see this almost in the people. The moment you decided that you're going to buy paint, you move into a different mindset, and you start looking at the properties, the prices. So it's all about the details. In the beginning, it's about inspiration, then it becomes about details. And you also have this experience that once you've filled up your basket, you just want to get the hell out of there. So the checkout page is completely different behavior. And don't get started on returns and service. So actually, there's different kind of mindsets in there, and we ended up splitting the journey with different product owners for each of the journey. And of course, there's problems in the overlap. But it actually worked surprisingly well. And why did it work surprisingly well? Well, I was really proud of my product owners that they managed to sort of start learning this language of the business. You all know what product owners do? So product owners talk to engineers, and engineers, they have a special language. You know what it's called? It's called geekish. So the engineers speak geekish, and the business people speak businessish. So you translate. Now, this is a great example on how they did it. This is a typical geekish screen that we would have on the wall. What are we doing? We're running an experiment, like an A/B test on a recommender, like other people also bought, right? And you can have different implementations, and they behave differently. We had a control variant, and you can see that number C is actually doing pretty well. So the people that we send to number C, they convert about 1.4, this 1.2. Oh, that's better, right? It could, of course, be that you've sent all the trigger-happy people to variant C. It could be. So you need a set of people, enough people to actually move there. It's called Bayesian statistics, and well, we were at 88% sure. And to engineers, this is a completely transparent picture. Nobody in business knew what to do. And then the product owner did something really bright. They added these two small asterisks and explained that given this information, we could actually make more money every month. We can actually make so much more money. And we are 88% sure. And now the business woke up and they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So we can make a couple of $100,000 extra and you're 88% sure? I can make that decision. And it was a great example of product owners moving away from technical domain and translating what technical opportunities can mean into business language. So that's one of the things that worked really well and contributed greatly to their success. Now, why did it work? Well, it worked. So a couple of things. Paradoxically, I thought, one product owner, I'm a Scrum trainer, this cannot work. It worked. You have to give them a level playing field by breaking up the value proposition in a logical way. But this was the key thing, finding personal motivation. So the product owners we had were like super motivated. And I think that was the key thing that we had there. They were really passionate about what they were doing. You know this diagram? This Ikigai diagram? I see people nodding. Then you know that this is not Ikigai. Huh? So I'm fortunate there are no Japanese in the room that can correct me, but this is actually from a Spanish philosopher who came up with this Venn diagram, and then he thought, oh, purpose is the center word. Let's pick a Japanese word that sounds really sexy. But to the Japanese it's something else. But actually it's a really cool exercise. So finding this center point about what you care about, who can pay you, what the world needs, it is a good exercise to do. But find people that are truly motivated. And that reminded me of somebody. It reminded me of Felix. And Felix is blind. And he was supposed to go to the Paralympics, 2022. Due to COVID, things got messed up. But I was really fortunate to train with him because he put everything aside to be an Olympic candidate. And I had to do fundraising, and we did things together. We did judo, like a show like this for business, and then he would throw me around. But since he's blind, he would throw me in a wall or something like that. And then people would start laughing, and then he realized his mistake. But it was fun nevertheless. He was like so motivated, and I thought, this is so important to get where you want. And the second part is actually social motivation. So realize that you are also a leader to your organization. You're also radiating discipline, motivation, the way you do things, the way you talk, the passionate you are, to other people. So find people around you that lead you, but be aware that you are also responsible for the motivation of people around you. That's actually my youngest daughter. And of course she wants to be in a judo gi, because I'm in a gi. And I'm doing cool stuff with her, and I bring in a photographer. That's what makes her so enthusiastic about it. Social motivation, personal motivation. Number 2, the one you've been waiting for. So this was clickbait, huh? You realize that. Because these two gentlemen, those were my colleagues. This was actually the first product I built, and I was really proud of that product. And you can see they're carrying it. It's a mobile radar. Everybody knows how radar works? Everybody's nodding. Well, I'm going to explain it anyway because I've spent hours and hours on the slides. So this is my high-definition image of a radar. You have a transmitter-receiver over here, sending out an electromagnetic pulse. It bounces off an object. You measure the time it takes, and you know how far away the object is. It goes like this. Wow, the magic of PowerPoint. All right, so 2 problems. Number 1, if you're sending out a pulse, you can't be listening at the same time. So there's a kind of a dead range that there might be something there, but you can't actually discover it. Number 2, this is a kind of a loud exercise. So you're screaming out a lot of energy, but the guy in a helicopter can actually hear you twice as far away, given the same size of receiver. So there's actually a problem. And so we found, oh, that's a bad idea. Yeah, this is more funny than the slides, huh? So we came up with a good solution for that, and that's called a frequency modulated continuous wave radar. Ooh, I still remember it. So what do? We sweep a frequency, like a pulse, like a weep, weep, and then it bounces off the object and it comes back, but now it's shifted in frequency. Now you can subtract the two, do a Fourier analysis, and you come up with the distance. It has more advantages. You can also measure the Doppler shift. Like Dopplers when the ambulance comes by. You can measure how fast it goes. That's pretty cool. Because you're transmitting all the time, you can use less power. Less power means less detection. You don't have the range problem. But less power also means you can make everything smaller. And we were actually produced one of the first mobile radars that you could carry. And I was so proud of it. Now, this was the product. You could carry it in 2 backpacks. And yeah, we did so much in engineering on it and testing and field trials and stuff like that. And at some point, we came to the point that, okay, let's bring in the army and ask for people to actually run tests with this. And we called the army, hey, can you send over 2 soldiers? We want to try this in the field. And I said, sure. And they sent over 2 soldiers. And they turned out to be female. Now, there are certain parts of the female body that are different than that of the men. I was 24, so by then I should have noticed that. Which is, of course, the joints, the bone structure, the hip, and the amount of weight that they can carry on their back. No. Obviously, the breasts were involved, but it's also the entire skeleton is different. If you design something to be carried for women, you really have to take that into account. And so we had to start this whole backpacking thing again from scratch. And that was actually sounds like a very small change, but it was like huge, especially if you do it just prior to production. Why did that happen? Well, it reminded me of something I was doing when I was training jiu-jitsu. And it looks very nice, but only if the guy cooperates. So if your opponent cooperates, everything is possible. If he doesn't cooperate, it becomes more challenging. And the only way to discover that is in randori. The Japanese word randori means practice, basically. And this is me practicing with Peter. I want to make an arm lock. I want to break his arm. He doesn't like that. So he's resisting. And the only way to actually make this move is to distract him. He's not enjoying this. I am. The only way you figure this out by actually doing randori. That's why in judo, half of your training time is randori. You really have to practice. You have to roll. You have to figure out what works. Why are we not doing this in our jobs? I wasn't doing that. And it has everything to do also with structural ability. Yeah, he's sitting over there. He was really pissed off because Sporting is playing tonight. And he has to sit here and listen to his dad. So we took it out on all the millennials over there. You're sitting in the game corner trying to beat all of you in racing, bruising some egos. Anyway, this is my house. This is the rear part of my house. There used to be a dining table out there, but we turned it into a small dojo. Why? So they have always the opportunity to play and to practice. Sometime he and his brother decide to do that at 6 o'clock in the morning. And since my bedroom is just above this, you hear this boom, boom. That's maybe not such a good idea. But do you have a place in your company where you can safely practice? Have you got your staging set up? Just to spin up a production cluster or a cluster of data that you can experiment with that represents the real world. If you don't have that stuff, you're going to run into the same problems that I did. Structural ability. Number 3. I think we're making good pace. Oh yeah. What is with all these companies? Are you getting nervous from me walking up and down? Good. Anybody? They're all streaming services, yeah? Yeah. Where are they from? They're all US companies, huh? Yeah. Some of them are having this unicorn effect, like Netflix, like growing super fast. And at that time, I was working with a... Yeah, you know this one, huh? Anybody from France around? Yeah, it's actually my favorite part of France. But we were like this one little village holding on called Videoland. We started out a bit like Blockbuster with the video cassettes, and then they moved over to streaming services. They did a really good job in doing that. And we're actually pretty successful. And however, the story has a kind of a sad ending. But what killed us was sort of this graph that I produced at some point in time. So I know you've all been waiting for this. Math! You all love math, right? Yay! Any engineers in the room? Yeah, thank you, fellow engineers. Welcome. And we make great stuff. Maybe any physicists? Physicists? There are physicists in the room? Very good. Because you model, you're almost engineers. Yeah. You can, yeah, but you can make these great discoveries and then model it, and then we can make stuff that makes money. Many mathematicians? Ah, cool. Then we over there. Yeah, that's sort of the higher elves in the spectrum, huh? Yeah. What time are we? So there's this mathematician, the engineer, and the physicist, and they're making this walk down in the mountains here near Lisbon. Just to give you an idea of the difference between these three. Yeah? So they're having a walk or a stroll up there, and they see a black sheep. And the engineer says, "Look, friends, all the sheep in Portugal must be black." And the physicist says, no, that's maybe a little bit, maybe we can say that there's at least one black sheep right here. And the mathematician says, well, my friends, the only thing we can say with certainty is that today, the 15th of October, at 11:25, there was a sheep in Portugal that was black at least one side. So that's sort of where we have to work with. Anyway, math. Yeah, so what I did, I looked at how fast Netflix was growing in the Netherlands, and I was also plotting how fast we were growing. Basically, I was looking for a graph in which we were doing well. And we were doing well in this graph. And then I sort of looked at the rate of growth. God, this is interesting. Are they slowing down or are they speeding up? And that was interesting. Netflix was actually slowing down, almost linearly. And we were still accelerating our growth. Of course, if you only have a few subscribers, it's easier, but we both had quite a few subscribers. So it was interesting. So we were doing well. And we looked a little bit back into the history and looked at how Netflix actually staffed their growth. Because we were struggling with staff. How many teams do we need? How much budget do we need? Okay, let's go back and see how they did it. This is where it went wrong. Oh yeah, and first the strategy. Strategy was also fun. First you need a different strategy. If you do the same thing as Netflix, you're dead. So this was what we used to sort of specify our strategy. Number one, find different content. Now we noticed that we can actually be more, especially in the Netherlands, we can be more extreme than on TV. And we leverage that ability. We used local content. Netflix is moving in that direction, but by then it wasn't. And we focused on guilty pleasures. I'm not sure why. I didn't like it, but people like it. People watch it. Then it's all part of the brand. Do they associate it with it? Do people recognize it? Do they actually come to us for this content? This was cool. As product owners, we were actually involved in pricing. How many product owners were involved in pricing? It was actually one of the first times we could do this. And we could actually have this discussion. Do you want to compete with Netflix on price? Do we want to compete with YouTube? Like zero price, but ads. Or can we find something in the middle? There's like really cool discussions that we had. We constantly would look at experience, and not just for the fun of customer experience and NPS, we would actually be able to trace it back to churn. So does changing the customer experience help us to sort of close the back door? All right, you have the front door, you bring in customers and they leave through the back door. Does that make sense? I had this uncle, when his daughter started bringing boyfriends home, and the first boyfriend came, he opened the door, oh, come in, ah, come further. He opened the back door, boom. It's nothing for you. So that's what we did. Anyway, when I was talking about growth, what we did is we looked at what they did and said, okay, if we do what they do, then we're probably in the right place. So we looked at early 2017, that's 100% of their staffing, and then we dig through all of their reports, the public keynotes, whatever we could find, to come up with growth numbers. And this is sort of what they did. Like in 5-year time, they doubled the number of engineers they had. Say, okay, then we need to do the same thing because we want to be on the same curve. And what happened actually was uncontrolled growth. So we lost very inspiring leadership. We lost people that felt very passionate about media, about being a content company. It was no longer shared. And there wasn't really a social structure that would help people to grow and balance things out. And that's actually what, well, they're still around, but they're struggling much harder. So my suggestion to you is, if you can't be led, don't grow. And yes, that's a challenge, and we all want to grow, and we all want to beat Netflix, but don't do it. This is basically what we did. We took a team, added people to it, more people, split the team. That makes sense, right? Who else does that? Like nobody. Wow, one. All right. Well, for you then. A different way of doing this. This was brought to new attention by me by Jesse Houwing, who is a steward of the Nexus framework. He said, Chris, what you should try is this. You have this team. You have a product owner, scrum master. You have these engineers. They're working really well. If you add team to it, do a scatter and rotate pattern. Meaning, you have these new teams, and these other guys or girls, they can coach the other teams. They are with that team for one sprint. And the next sprint, they move to the other team. Which means there is no way that you can do valuable work. The only way that you can create value as an engineer is by transferring everything you know to the other guys. And then you move to the next team. And you get somebody else. That's what Chris always told you to do. It needs to be some. And all the teams get the wisdom of all the different engineers. And you just rotate them. And at some point, they just are absolved by the rest of the teams. This works far better because it forces people in a situation where they have to create the social construct of sharing. And again, that reminded me of something. So I was in this social construct. This woman is yt5s. yt5s is the only 6th Dan female judoka in the Netherlands. 6th Dan jiu-jitsuka, 5th Dan judoka, 6th Dan karate, former world champion. She looks very sweet when you spar with her, you're scared shitless. Former MMA and the only bunjikai in Europe. I'm so happy that all the people decided to go and live in Apeldoorn in the same city that I did, because I have these people around me. And having the people around me sort of always gives me this motivation. I will never be as good as them, but that's okay. Some people say, Chris, this is all Japanese jiu-jitsu. What about Brazilian jiu-jitsu? This is Dean. Dean is former world champion. Like 2 seconds before he choked me out. It's like, still a record for me. But, yeah. All right, so those are 2 other, I have a lot of kids. So those are also 2 of my kids. And what you can see is that they're smiling, they're practicing and they're smiling. They're in a very safe place to do this. They have a place where they can practice this social ability. So I talked about having an environment and having computers and I don't know what kind of stuff engineers use to spin up and test, but also actually to have, I would say, friends and people you can spar with. Why is it that in every organization I come, I never find that the product managers all came together for a product manager's Friday afternoon beer night? Maybe they do in Portugal. You have lots of beer here. In the Netherlands, they never do that. They always work, and they always work in isolation, and then they meet each other to discuss work. There's no place to actually have this social construct, to work on your social ability, to sit with somebody. So find somebody that is your buddy, and you can share with. So I was in a meeting with the CEO, and he butchered me. Well, what did you do? Let me help you. Yeah, I was fortunate to have had a couple of people in my career path that actually gave me those advice. So find something for social ability. That guy's not happy. I don't see that. All right. So, 6 levers towards your back belt. How are we doing in the time? Do we have notes time? 35. Oh. 35. Oh man, lots of times. In that case, if you unhide the next slide. I'm totally screwing with the AV guys. All right, 6 levers towards your back belt. Let me do it like this. There were 6 things in this presentation that may help you along the way. Number 1, personal motivation. And I wrote, discipline creates freedom. What helped me in my motivation is actually go to the dojo like every night. And by just keep going there, you sort of build this motivation. It's the discipline that creates the freedom. Number 2, personal ability. So practice in a real life setting. So have this ability to explain. Number 3, find people that are a role model to you. But realize that you're also a role model. So take those people under your wing and share that. Create a network of wisdom. I always say I don't know that much. But I can share what I know, and if you share what you know, then we both know more. So find this place or create this place to share. Oh yeah, this is also interesting. Reward the right behavior. So make sure that the structure doesn't reward the wrong behavior, because then people will just follow the structure. And find a place to facilitate growth in your companies. Too much is based on end result and not on growth of the people and the mindset. These are the 6 things that help you. To make it even easier to remember, there's actually 2 columns. So there's always motivation and there's ability. And in the rows you have like personal, social, and structural. You can see I did databases in the past, so my mind is very structured. All right. Since we have plenty of time, I've been talking way too fast apparently. Why don't we spend 2 minutes where you look at your neighbor, and you look at the 6 lessons from the dojo, and you talk about which lesson stood out to you. And you think, oh, this is interesting, maybe I want to do something with that, or focus on that lever. Yeah? So you have 2 minutes, I will count down the clock. Talk to your neighbor, and then we'll get back. Goed, hè? Hmm? 15. Yeah, I know. I checked. But that's... And there's still time for questions. So I have also like 10 minutes.
We actually have some online as well. Probably some of them will also have.
That's cool.
Just let us know.
All right, time's up. Time's up. 2 minutes is short, huh? 2 minutes is short, but I just realized there are also people watching online. Sorry, you've been spending 2 minutes looking at the screen, talking to the walls or something, I don't know. Maybe somebody wants to share something interesting that they talked about. No? Yeah, you again.
Can you please repeat the question?
Okay.
I wouldn't do that.
Because now UX is becoming more trendy, and I do UX now during 2 years, and I'm also product manager. And I find very similar, but in the same time, I think UX research is more focused on cognitive perception, psychology. And I find interesting because you're talking about Netflix. And actually, Netflix and TikTok, they used the same effect, what's Zeigarnik effect, what means between the content, the gap of time is very small, what activates a stimulus between your conscious mind and subconscious mind. So this is cognitive effects coming in product management and UX as well. And I'm curious to know what you think about UX rule with product management, if you find very similar or complementary of this.
Okay, so your question is UX complementary to product management? Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Anybody has an idea? No, you want to know your answer? Yeah, so product management sits in the middle of all these jobs. So I actually wrote on the timeline back there, 1931, the first product managers come alive in Procter & Gamble. And they're not called product managers, they're called brand men. Why are they called brand men? Well, because in Procter & Gamble they had all these divisions and they were competing with each other and nobody actually knew what they were doing. And they came up with this, the guy, I forgot the name, but he came up with this concept of brand man, saying there's one person that is responsible for everything that happens with the brand. And that's actually the start of product management. So as a product manager, you're always pulled in all directions. You're pulled into engineering, you're pulled into operations, you're pulled into UX and into research. Depending on your situation, you may need to move more in that area. If I'm launching a new product or I'm thinking about launching a new product, of course I spend my majority of the time in UX. I'm so fortunate that I have people in there that know what they're doing, in contrast to me. But knowing that they are there and working with them in the beginning phase of the product is super important. I also have products that are a little bit more mature, are out there in the market, and I have a different type of UX person in my teams that are actually in the teams, helping the teams to discover questions of today and solving them. So that's how it works. I have another product which is at the end of its life cycle, very little UX involvement. So it depends, but you're always in this journey. Good question. All right, anything else? We'll get to questions later after on. This is really about the 6 levers. I still have 3 more slides, I think.
I'll make it short.
Oh, yeah, go.
So I was just thinking of how to involve the practice in a real life setting when you have a client-facing service, because as soon as real people are involved, it seems like the safe setting falls away because you always have consequences. And we were just discussing how you can actually involve all these other levers that you have here, social motivation and the structural ability by, for example, including another person to be your safety net because they can interact. And I was just thinking of how you would relate this to, or if you would relate this to design thinking at all.
To design thinking? Yeah, I think this, yeah. I think you can relate it to design thinking. Everybody is hopefully familiar with design thinking. It is also, one of the key things in design thinking is that you bring all these different views on the product together. And I think that really builds into what you're asking there. So having these different disciplines in there and the different viewpoints on the product, super helpful. I'm a really creative guy. I don't mind being on stage and talking. I hate things like law, regulations, GDPR, governance, so I'll just forget about it. I know this of myself, so I have somebody in my team who loves that stuff and hates me for not taking that into account. So build people around your weaknesses. Make sure you have all those perspectives in there. All right, so people are leaving, so we need to move on. We have 6 chairs because there's something interesting coming. Don't go, don't go. Oh, so sad. Yeah, because I had something really nice. So what if you don't care about martial arts? Could be. Well, I have a daughter who does ballet, and you mentioned TikTok. Well, there's this stuff on TikTok with things that you have to do. This was apparently such a challenge.
Oh, no!
Oh, that went well. Yeah, that happened. But maybe if we look very closely, we see something else. Always worth watching twice.
Oh, no!
Something did happen. Apparently something happens when you push people really to the edge. People get wet, things go wrong, many things can go wrong, but beauty is hidden somewhere in there. And you don't find beauty if you don't go all this way. You don't find this inner strength if you don't try to get a black belt in whatever your profession is. So just go out there and try. That was it. You're never too old to learn. I started this journey when I was 40 years ago, when I got my first judo thingy. I wrote a book about all the things that I did wrong and right, which is called The Product Samurai. It's on Amazon. Don't buy it on the Dutch side. There's a very smart guy in the Netherlands who buys my book in bulk and then sells it for twice the price. Yeah, I am really pissed at him, but at the same time I also respect his entrepreneurship. Anyway, what you can do, you can always contact me. If you want the slides, just PM me on LinkedIn. You can find my email contacts. Don't phone me in the middle of the night. But that's all there. Yeah, and if you snapped all that, I have something else to give you. I'm also a steward of the PSPOA at scrum.org, and that's one of the things that we put in there are the stances. And the stances come from karate, but they also come from golf, and you take a particular stance to swing a ball. And I actually created a small mini course for you, and I'm just going to give it away for free. These are 6 movies that might help you in becoming better in your profession as a product manager. There's no strings attached. There's just 6 movies on YouTube, and they talk about the 6 different stances. And then maybe it helps you to start this path. And you start practicing it, and you pick up something. Something works for you, something doesn't work for you. But all the things together, it's important you just start and keep going. Because at the end of the day, a black belt is just a white belt that didn't stop. That's it. So,
Thank you very much, Chris. It was a pleasure having you here. You gave us the perfect closure for the day. Now, guys, if you have any questions, it's the perfect time. Anybody?
Thank you. Great presentation. Actually, my question is not really a question. It's more let us squeeze a bit more information out of you. Sorry. I found really interesting the point number 4, but I think it involves a bit of the other leverage. For example, so in creating these real-life environments, either it be in communities or companies or whatever, because you're also involving finding and networking role models and creating opportunities for people to develop. How do you convince, or please give us your view on the ROI and arguments to give to our communities and our executive companies to create these opportunities, these sandboxes, to implement these strategies?
yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good question. So the question is basically, how do I convince my manager that I should spend time in becoming better in my job? And usually the dialogue goes something along the lines of, usually I like analogies. So we talk about the best soccer team. Well, it's going to be interesting to do this in this setting, but but usually we talk about, hey, do you want to have a team of superheroes and like super good players? Okay, this is interesting. Well, number one, what kind of salary do they get? But let alone the salary, how much time do they actually spend training? How much of the time do they spend on the field performing? And how much time do they spend working together, figuring out how I can pass a ball to you so you can pass it back to me, and how we take a corner or how we actually defend in certain situations, so that we can find each other blindfolded on the field. And usually people recognize that if you want to be a top player, you also have to train like a top player. And this is just part of your training. Let me know if it works. No, it tends to work. It tends to work.
Anyone else?
There's a question over there.
Thanks for the presentation. It was quite interesting. My question is a little bit more like a mini psychiatry session. I'm stuck in a hamster wheel. I'm a operation manager, and I'm lacking motivation. I'm losing motivation on my work, and I'm seeing that the thing I want to do is to become a product manager or a product designer. What do you think is the shortest path to achieve it?
All right, so you're in operations and you want to move more closer to product. Well, the good thing is you bring a lot of experience to the table coming from an operational background. You know how people actually use the product. What is different between operations and product is that product tends to look ahead. So they're usually far more concerned with the future than with today. That's usually where operations comes in. So the point is, how do we get you to get closer to this vision ahead? What I did in my time was, there were two things that I did. One of the things that is, I sought out people that were in that position. I said, look, this is really interesting. I want to learn more about it. Can you help me? Well, going back to that social ability. And I was allowed to tag along with one of the product managers at TomTom, who was like a really senior guy, and he really taught me a lot. And number two was more or less by accident. When we started moving to product management, my boss sent out an email and said, look, we're going to discontinue this and this product. And I came to his desk, oh, you can't do this because there are so many customers on this product and they'll be really stuck. And I said, very good, you're a product manager. Because you're the only one that came. All the other people who were in operations said, thank God. We're getting rid of this. So it is really about thinking about the future and thinking about the needs of the customer. And I found tagging along to people that are very good in it, or you're respecting that job is a really good way forward. So find a buddy that's willing to help you to introduce in that path.
Anyone else has questions? Don't be shy. No? Okay, so I think that we had a question from the online attendees.
We have online questions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I left you 2 minutes.
No worries. We do have a question from the online crowd. I hope I get this right. Do you consider Muda and Murio your philosophy? Can you elaborate how you integrate it?
Yeah, can we first explain what Muda, and what was the third one? I know what it is.
Muda and Murio.
Murio, yeah. So, anybody? So there's the three wastes from lean. So when Toyota started thinking about lean, they had these big production lines and they thought, okay, so how can we optimize? And one of the things they were looking at were these three things. One of them is look for people who are overburdened, like in operations. And that's a place to optimize, because people are overburdened. Look for machines that are overburdened. Look for uneven loads, like people are really busy and some people are not really busy. There's an opportunity there to put them together. And go back to the soccer example. If he's a soccer player, so if he scores 3 goals, it isn't like, okay, I'm off to the canteen, go ahead, you defend with 10 people. No, he goes to the back and he helps to defend. So if you in your organization, teams are loaded unevenly, let them help where all the problems are. What was the first one? There's a third one, I'll come to it. Overburdened and imbalanced. Waste, so where return products are created. Look for in your organization where waste is being created. Fun story, I work for an e-commerce brand, and at some point one of the most expensive things is stuff that gets sent back. And one of the best ways to improve efficiency was actually looking at the returns. And people were sending back like these dog baskets where you can put your dog in. And why are they sending all this? Way more than normal. Well, because if you buy a dog basket, you only get a picture. And you buy a picture and you get a dog basket like this, but you have like a St. Bernard, like a huge dog. It doesn't fit. So the change that we made is start making pictures of these dog baskets with dogs in them. Very simple. And the returns decreased. It actually went very well. And then we started looking at other places where people send stuff back. So look at waste and improve that waste. So those are the three things. What was the question? Oh, do I use that as a philosophy? No. And that sounds funny. Why not? Because most of the time I spent in product discovery. I am looking for new ways to improve the lives of people. I'm less concerned with optimizing the process of product delivery. And I'm very happy that I have people who focus more on that. But there is no greater waste than building very efficiently what should not have been built at all. I hope that answered that question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So last chance to have, anybody has a question? No? Okay, so thank you for coming today. It was nice having you all here. We expect to see you here tomorrow as well. And thank you again, Chris. Last round of applause for him, please. Thank you.